going to start with just a brief explanation of who Frederick County is, because I wouldn't expect most of you to know. We are about 287,000 people in the middle of Maryland. I used, kind of looks blue here. It's supposed to be a purple map, but because we are pretty evenly split politically between Democrats and Republicans, with a sizable portion of independents in between, we are the largest geographically in the state of Maryland, largest county. And if you want to go to the next slide here real quick, we are historically known for being agriculturally focused. We have the most farms and the most acres of farmland in the state, but we also have a rapidly growing community with a thriving downtown. We are the fastest growing county in the entire state based on percentage. So our population's going, and while most counties' school systems are actually losing students, we are far and away an outlier with like a 10% increase in the last few years. So we're pretty rapidly growing community, and you can see from this map here just how many of our other jurisdictions nearby are losing people and we're gaining them. So with that change, we've seen a change not only in the number of people, but in who those people are. So for example, if we go to the next slide, old Frederick, as people know it, would be the gentleman you see here, the farmers who are known for their agriculture. But the new Frederick includes not just them, but all these other populations that you see popping in here. We actually now have about an 11% of our population are people who are born in another country. And I think we need another click here on the slide. There we go. Thank you. And then about 14% speak a language other than English. So while we go from the rural farmers to the immigrants, we have quite a range of people we're trying to engage. So let's move into what those challenges were for us. Started with COVID. As all of you have experienced, I'm sure, we had to get public health information out to all of these populations, from the folks who don't have broadband internet to those who don't speak English. And then as part of the public health information, we also, the timing of COVID hit at a time when we were required to have a public process for our budget. So everything shut down in early to mid-March in Maryland. And by the end of March, we had to, by law, have a public hearing with the county executive. And then in April and May, we had to have another public hearing with our county council. So we had to find a way to meet those legal requirements while all the buildings were closed. So that presented a whole set of challenges for us. And at the same time, we have the engagement challenges. Our rural areas either have very little internet or unreliable internet. So we couldn't just rely on having the streaming video open to them. And then we needed to also find ways to open our channels of communication with this rapidly growing immigrant population. If you look here on this slide, the green areas on the map are showing you the areas where we know we don't have good internet service, so our more rural areas. And the photo shows a member of the community who's wearing headphones because we had to bring translators into the meeting because the particular community meeting had enough people who spoke a different language that we knew we had to be able to service those folks as well. So like most of you, we were trying to stumble our way through all of this. And so we gradually began doing a rollout with public input. We found them because we had to find a way to meet that legal requirement for the budget meeting. And the one thing that really stood out to me was that they were talking already, looking at ways to bring in translation services. So our first need were meetings, and everybody's seen the virtual meetings going on. Well, we had an extra slide that all our residents started seeing, and it was a way that people could participate just through phone calls if they didn't have good internet. So this became a common slide. Our video team uses it at all of our public meetings now. So the people know somebody has called in, they're providing their comments and having a chance to speak directly to their elected officials. And in a way, I might add, that doesn't get Zoom bombed, which was always nice. But then once we got the meetings underway and recognized that there was a lot more to this tool than what we were actually using. And so we looked at how can we do something with the survey function? This looks like a pretty cool tool. So as we got our American Rescue Plan Act, sorry, I think I had the wrong thing there, the ARP funds, we reached out to the community and said, how do you want us to invest this federal money in our community? And as you can see, we did our survey built into public input. We got over 600 people who participated and provided a huge number of responses. So we were really happy with the engagement we got through the survey function. So that led us to look at what other tools are there. So translations became available. That's the next piece, where you can see part of our portal translated into another language so that the community can see what's coming up, what they might be interested in. And then once we went from that, we went to the captions as well. And I think there's one more. Oh, there we go. So the budget this year was much different than the budget during COVID. We had public meetings, as Brad mentioned earlier. You still need to have multiple ways to reach people. So the photo that's at the top of that page there is from one of our budget meetings that we went out to one of our smaller towns, which we had never done in the past. We'd always had our meetings in the county seat. So we had in person. We had a page set up in public input where all of our meetings were listed with links to the videos. So if you missed one and you wanted to hear what people in a specific district wanted to hear and see in their budget, you could go check that out there. And if you couldn't make it to the budget meetings in your area, you could put in a comment on the website. And you see on the right-hand side of the screen there where it says, can't make it to meeting, no problem, submit your comments. And the word cloud there is what we came up with from all the comments that were submitted from the community through this web portal. But that wasn't the end of it. We had the in-person, we had the videos, we have the comments. Now we have another slide popping up where you can see the information that we got from this was really valuable. We can check, this is only showing demographics. We have way more than that. It was just a sample of the pie chart, but we got a really good idea of who was caring about it and who are we reaching. And then I think there's another thing popping up here on this slide somewhere, maybe. Poor Samantha got stuck with a lot of animation. I apologize for that.
No, you're good. We have voicemail comments down here now.
Oh, thank you. The voicemail comments at the bottom. So people who were curious about the budget, wanted to leave a comment, wanted to have their voice literally heard, they were able to leave a voicemail through this system, and then we get a transcript of it there as well. And then I think we have the map that shows where all the respondents came from. So we were able to overlay on the map that is built into the system our county outline, and we can kind of zoom in and figure out from this map where people are paying attention to the budget and what parts of the county we aren't meeting. So that helps us as much with who aren't we reaching as it is who we are reaching. And I think next one. So what are we going to do next? We just recently got the last portal where we can really focus on equity, the equity map, and the customer or the constituent relations management tools. This is an example of the EPA's equity map through public input. We overlaid our county boundary line on that as a layer. That was super easy to do. And we could start looking at where people who are maybe lower income, have a lot of young children, don't speak English as well as others, minorities, seniors, we just all sorts of different possibilities here. And then we overlaid that with another layer where our council districts are. So it would help us to see which council person might have an interest in one area over another. So that's something we're just starting to play with and get an idea of how we can respond to this information. And then the next piece was the constituent, the CRM part. We were like, well, what can we do with all this information? It's cool that we have this, but what can we utilize it with? So we looked at ways that we could take newsletters or who's weighed in on this, so we know what things we want to reach out. Hey, you expressed an interest in the budget. Here's some information you might be interested in. So this kind of gave us some idea on the back end. You see, we can collect not only their email address, but their phone numbers. So somebody might want to have a text message. And what we're finding with our Spanish speaking community is that they prefer text message over email. So these are really useful tools for us to be able to sort through this way. And then one example, the very first time we've tested around with this was a newsletter that I think is the next click, if it pops up here, where the county executive put forward her proposed budget. We were able to build this in the back end of public input and then send it out to a large group of people and then track how many people are actually opening it and reading it. So we've been really excited to see all the capabilities that we've had, and we're getting a baseline so that we know where we can move forward to in the coming year. We just had a change in government, so this all kind of played in. We actually gathered our transition priorities using public input as well. So it's been a really useful tool for us as we go through this change. It's our first change in government under this form of government. So not to get too wonky, but it's been new for all of us, staff and electeds. So I think that pretty much wraps up what we've done. At some point here, we'll have questions. First, I'm going to hand it back to Mo and let him take it from here.